Very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Jeffrey Uzama, as always, with my people. Guys, good morning.
Yes, it's a beautiful Thursday morning, Jeffrey, and you guys are looking good. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
I think it's one of the gifts you can give yourself to look good with whatever it is that you have. But welcome to Perfect Day Starter. I'm Kayode Okikulu. We're live for you in Lagos.
Lagos, Nigeria, tracking everything that is going on in the polity. I've been processing a lot of things in the last few days, and I'm just a bit concerned about the state of our democracy. You know, sometimes we just get carried away by the everyday news. Sometimes we just need to sit down and just process what is going on. I'm seeing what is playing out in Kogi State and the recall process, the level of mobilization for those 250 signature. I can guarantee you that if you do an election by INEC tomorrow, we're not going to get up to 150,000 to vote in the real election. But in the recall process, in a few days, they were able to get 250,000 plus signature to be able to recall a senator. That tells you there's a lot of undercurrent, whether they were bribed to do it, whether they were influenced to do it, whatever it is they used to do it, all those allegations. But it tells you the economy of mobilization. I like to refer that Kayode has that copyright. The economy of mobilization is a powerful one in our country. Sometimes it just makes a mockery of our democracy. It's within their rights to recall anybody they want to recall. But we're just talking about doing things willingly and for themselves. So those allegations, it's difficult to look away from them. But anyway, it is their call. And again, I look at what is playing out at the National Assembly is very concerning. At the judiciary is very concerning. Executive power is very concerning. And line in between all of this is the eroding confidence of the people in the system. But I want to plead with Nigerians not to give up on democracy. Perhaps some of the merchants of this destruction, if you will, actually want us to give up on democracy. We should not fall. It's a battle of attrition. There are still good people in the executive. There are still good people in the judiciary. There are still good people in the legislature. Maybe they are in a very small mind. They're in minority. For the sake of those ones, we can't afford to give up or continue to fight. The level of recklessness we see in the system. You remember when Muhammadu Buhari was president, they were shouting, your government is nepotistic, you're this. And then President Bola Tinubu came. Well, he took it to another level. It wasn't just Southwest, it's Lagos-centric. So we'll keep talking about these things. And let's be clear, when we find fault and criticize, people feel, oh, you hate the government. That is our job, to point to them where they're not doing well. It's our job. That's what we do. When they do well, we praise them. If you're not doing well, we don't praise you. We point to you because you are accountable to the people. The people, they're actually supreme, guys. I just need to let that out.
Well, Jeffrey, your concern for our democracy is valid. And I've also been thinking particularly about this Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's sexual harassment allegation and, you know, events following after. The Kogi constituents are now beginning to push back, and they're holding meetings and saying she's our elected representative. The recall process must stop. Our people are being, you know, led on. They really do not know what they're doing as far as this recall process is concerned. But, you know, the reason I say Jeffrey's concern is valid is because, one, a Kogi High Court had initially restrained INEC from collecting petitions on that recall process, but then just days after, it went ahead to grant that the proceedings should continue. And if the Senate has adjourned, the Senate's public hearing on ethics and privileges had adjourned hearing sine die on that process, saying that the case is before the court. We know the exact cases that are before the court. So even if the court will now determine, you know, this allegation, the veracity of it or not, can the judiciary also be relied upon to deliver justice on this particular process, knowing full well, you know, that the systems must be made to work? Either it's the executive, the legislature, or the judiciary. So these concerns about the arms of government that make up our democracy, that should push forward the values that and principles that should indeed attest to the practicality and indeed, you know, a democracy that works and is representative of the people's commitment to those values. Then we really must be concerned for our democracy. I'm wondering how this will, you know, play out, particularly as Senator Natasha has also herself filed a case of disbarment for the presiding chairman over that privileges committee, citing misconduct when he was practicing outside the country. And people are saying, oh, she's getting into the game and playing by their rules. But what choice has she been left with? So much to reflect on this morning, Kaidi.
Yeah, and the battle is really multifaceted at this point, happening at different levels and different spheres. But I just want to ask Nigerians a very simple question, and I think we could talk about the arms of government, and we will talk about the arms of government, but I just want to ask Nigerians, because I consider you the fourth arm of government in that sense. Are you awake yet? Are we awake yet? And I'm not just saying in terms of time, because it's past 7. All of the things happening, has it stirred some sort of awakening in you? Because until Nigerians really wake up and begin to see these challenges as opportunities to fix those things, to set things right, to hold people accountable. Whether that person is your family member or not, the person is from your area, as far as the person is not doing what is right, either in the executive, the legislature, or even the judiciary following that due process, they must be called out. They must be held to account until Nigerians wake up. And that's why we're here on the show at this time, to ensure that Nigerians wake up. The people who own the power must wake up, because until then, we'll just be taken for a ride, because it will be expected that the people will move on, and wait for another 4 years, vote and move on, and wait for another 4 years, and before you know it, it's a century. But that's not all we're keeping tabs on this morning. Jeffrey, you saw something this morning.
Yes, on our way here, just before I bring you some of the headlines or highlights of what we're talking about, that way here. So in case you're coming, leaving Lagos, producer will put this up. In case you're leaving Lagos, that's the accident. I had to be a tactician to film this and drive somehow. So this is what's happening as you're leaving Lagos on Kara Bridge. So you can see the guys trying to direct people to just one lane. So this is outbound Lagos, just as you're about to exit the Kara Bridge, the popular Kara Bridge. So I was driving down, I was able to get this, just to alert you. So in case you are leaving Lagos, if there are alternative routes, I don't know whether there are, or you may have to just be quick to go out now so that you're not caught up in case you want to visit Bukola somewhere. She's at work, by the way. Anyway, but seriously, that's accident on Kara Bridge.
You talked about the concern that lives may have been lost in this accident.
I don't know about the lives. I don't know yet about, this is just what my camera was able to pick. I don't know whether anybody died and all of that. I was trying to race to work, so. That's basically so. Of
course, we'll keep our eyes on, keep tabs with the situation and bring updates. But what do we have for you this morning? We have quite a lot.
Yes, I'll get started with that Naira-for-crude policy that is supposed to end this month, March. It's supposed to be. Whether there's going to be review or renewal, we do not know. But that seems to be one of the biggest conversations right now in the oil and gas sector. What does this mean for the industry? But more importantly, what does this mean for you and I? Will it change anything? Should we be worried? Will there be an uptick? We'll find out right here on the program.
And yesterday, the Senate passed a bill mandating the compulsory registration of citizens with the aim of overhauling Nigeria's identity management system through the repeal and reenactment of the National Identity Management Commission Act. We'll be taking a look at what this means for our records systems and data accuracy.
But that's not all. We take you into a world that a lot of people may not be familiar with, and that's experiential marketing. What does that mean? Well, don't worry. We'll take a look at that, explain it to you, and then you begin to see how you can maybe leverage on all of the interesting things in that field and improve on your success, whether your business, or personal, or your organization. We'll do that.
And also, we'll be bringing you a conversation on how traditional institutions can help unite the country. We'll be talking with the Amayanabo of Opobo Kingdom, the popular Opobo Kingdom. We'll be talking with the Amayanabo on what he thinks can help in uniting the country from where he sits as a traditional ruler.
Besides that, we'll also be looking at your well-being while you're at work. Yes, the average 9 to 5 worker spends a large chunk of their adult lives in their office, like all environments. So some office spaces can be toxic and mentally draining. A human resource consultant and life coach will be here to give us insights on how to navigate toxic workplaces.
Something to look out for those who are probably heading to work now and thinking, not again. And finally, we go into the world of visual arts as we seek to understand hyper-realism. Zainab Magaji joins us to put a spotlight and bring this to reality for us on the show. But that's something to look out for. Those are the things to look out for on the show. So it's a packed show. In Bukola's words, it's a bumper package. But just before we get into some of the talking points, let's see what you've been saying about some of the biggest stories in Nigeria today. I want to start from some cheery news, but let's get the controversy out of the way, right? And that's the fact that INEC has notified Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduah of a recall move and confirmed the receipt of petitioners' contact details. Recall that INEC had said, well, the petitions, or at least the details, are not fully there, so it's not really, the INEC is not really ready to act on it until the petitioners fix that part. I think the email address, the contact details,
email,
and all of that.
Yeah.
But INEC has now said, well, we've gotten it. And it's quite interesting how proactive and how fast this thing was. If it's other things, you see how...
That's why it's quite suspect. That's why people are saying.
Yeah.
It's
You've gotten contact details of all 250,000
Well, no, I think it's of the petitioners.
No, the petitioners, the people, no. The people who filed that petition on behalf of the other people is their contact details, and not everybody.
Not everybody.
So the next step INEC has to take now is to make sure that every name on that list is actually within Kogi Central Senatorial District. So for context, in the last election, the total score for Senatorial District was about, let's just give it 110, not up to that, 54 plus 51. So I just increased it so that in case of the other people, so 110 in the real election. And that took about a year to get to that number, campaigns and all of that. And then in the recall process, in just 1 or 2 weeks, they were able to get 250 voluntarily saying we want her back. Wonderful.
But you explained the process days earlier, Jeffrey. You said INEC still has to carry out a referendum.
Yes. No, INEC will now, they will write to Natasha Akpoti, said you will be, people are trying to recall your people. Your people are trying to recall you, and then they'll write to the Senate to notify them as well. Then INEC will now do the leg work. The real work is identifying that everybody is from that constituent. And now if they are satisfied, if they cross that hurdle, which is the most difficult hurdle, because they will check the biometrics with beavers and all of that. They cross that hurdle, then it's game time. It's now simple majority.
There you go.
Simple majority. If simple majority says no, yes, she's out. If they say no, that's the end of the process.
Well, Ebitu, the first user, says that this isn't necessary. They're doing too much. Who now? Is it INEC or the people or the petitioners? The energy spent on this recall could be better used to demand real governance and accountability. As I said earlier on, the people, the people, the people.
And of course, Senator Akpoti-Oduah herself has reacted, saying that INEC ought to have dismissed the petition outright, because you're guiding them, leading them on. You can't be an invigilator in an exam. They had initially brought the petition without the signal, the contact details, and you told them what to do, and then they went and did it. Well, let's take more of what you're saying about
the people. The people are supreme. To be very fair, it's the people that voted her. So if that is not such a big deal, you understand? So INEC is saying, before you say we didn't follow your petition, this is why we didn't follow your petition. So do the right thing first. So I don't, anyway.
Yaya Baaba says history will remember the good. History will remember the good people of Kogi Central for this bravery. They are the heroes of democracy in Nigeria.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, that should be okay. This is Manuel_Uncle says a lot of irrelevant. No Nigerian is irrelevant, please. People are in support of this motion, but forgetting the consequence, and as well as this woman in question is not poor, neither is she suffering, but can say of yourself supporting this motion. Maybe what can you say of yourself supporting this motion? We are the ones suffering. She and her family are made for life. That's an angle, anyway.
There you go.
But please, no Nigerian is irrelevant, please. well relevant. Whether they are doing it right or wrong, Nigeria, the Senate, the Constitution protects their right to do whatever it is they want to do.
The people, the people. But let's talk about another set of people who are rejoicing right now. You may have seen screenshots of alerts from core members.
We were
online. Yeah. So core members have started receiving the new monthly allowance of 77,000 Naira. We understand the NYC is now paying that to core members effective this month. So I saw someone's alert. Couldn't verify it, but of course we know from the end of the NYC they've started paying and promised to pay arrears. So Maiwa.
God is good to Maiwa.
Congratulations. Chinyele is...
Why are you guys always on his case?
It's our guy.
Chinyele has the first one. Says, let them send their offering to Ray. Remember the core member who did that video, who said that, well, for her, the president has been terrible at his job, and she just went on and on about how the economy is biting hard. So that's the person. Set aside that, why did it take so long to do the needful? Well, good question.
To pay Ray royalty. But I like, this is how government should respond to critics. It's as simple as saying, the girl is saying, life is hard, I'm spending too much. Collect. It's not that hard now. Okay. Sabi CFC says, yes, 77K allowance is nice, but let's be honest, Nigeria still owes coppers a proper job market offers after service.
In my opinion?
In my opinion, oh boy, I need to catch up.
Social media.
I almost said emo. This 77K doesn't change anything. At least now, say thank you when you can say small thank you. They have tried.
Well, in the light of the circumstances, I can understand when thank you can be difficult. Mark SH is the next user this morning who says they should all thank Rai. Rai is in the news this morning. She has just called on the government and the government listened. So maybe that's one of the reasons that thank you can be difficult. You know, when you're supposed to do the job when it matters the most and it comes, you know, belatedly, when so many other things have been overtaken by events, and you wonder where the feeling of gratitude should come in.
Yeah, but let's just say thank you, then we complain again. Because anyway, I want to look at it, 77K arrears has come. So use that one, spend 24 hours, and then resume to remind the government of how they are not doing well.
Don't worry, we'll tell you what Maiwa has to say about this. But let's go over to the dailies and see how the dailies reflect some of the big stories in the nation. Starting off with this Nigeria, because we're talking Nigeria, right? And this Nigeria has, as its big story, immunity. And this is not health immunity, no. You'll understand why. You see, reps want VP governors stripped of privilege. Bill scales second reading. Section 308 to give qualified privileges only to president. And qualified privileges there in context. You might want to find out what all of that means right there. But you see, again, Senate in rowdy session rejects immortalization of WOSU. Of course, that's about June 12th. Something about procedure, the rules and stuff. But that's the front page of this Nigeria for you this morning.
Okay, so let's go to the blueprints. Constitution review, rep poised to strip VP governors, deputies of immunity. So, for context, for those who are not familiar, there's an amendment going on in the National Assembly. The House is actually leading the path. So, about 40 or so, a couple of amendments to the Constitution, a lot of them. One of which is they want to give, what was that term they use again? Qualified privileges. To the president and all of that. You know, governor's deputy and president and vice, they have immunity. That means they cannot be prosecuted until they leave office. So those are one of the highlights. But there are so many other things. So many other things. I'm sure by the coming week we'll be able to highlight some of these things. There's a lot that state police, there's issue around the electoral system. Right now, one of the things I like about these guys is the fact that they're looking at a situation where before anybody sworn in would have been done with all these court cases. All of it, you know. And then before, if you're running for any public office now in Nigeria with this amendment, you must resign. So if this had been before now, Senator Godswill Akpabio, Senator Ahmad Lawan wouldn't have been in the Senate. There, so you must resign before you run for any office. And then, of course, before you say, I have defected, or you defected on TV, or you defected in your house, you will resign from the party. So there's so many, there are good ones, and they are even talking about the issue of having an assembly, like a House of Assembly for Abuja, which is not a state, it's a territory. That's why it's called the FCT. So there are so many, but all of this will pass through the National Assembly, I think get through public hearing, and then they will go through all of the state houses of assembly, and some I already know will not go anywhere. I can tell you for free.
And also on that
list that
gets me excited, which I believe should help to decongest, the courts, is that one that seeks to, make the litigation ceiling for election matters to stop at the Court of Appeal.
Yes, that's for governors. Only president will get to the Supreme Court. And then they also want to, the one I may be worried about is the one that has to do with increasing the number of Supreme Court justices. I think according to what it is now, is 21. Yeah. If they increase it, because when you talk about, if it's in America, for instance, they have only 9 judges in a population of over 300 million. The reason is that so that you have the best of the brightest of them all. When you overpopulate this place, we have, and then the one that may be controversial is that they want INEC now to be conducting local government elections. There's going to be...
On the flip side, they also want, and that's why you have 2. There's also meant to be another...
Yes, there will be another body to conduct the local government.
So it's 2.
No, the governors are not going to allow that. They will tell the assembly members, kill it, kill it. Perhaps I'm just joking.
Well, let's head over to the next paper this morning, and that would be The Guardian. Take a look at the big story. So it's quite instructive. What it's telling us is that instead of, all these back and forth over sexual harassment allegations, there are more important issues. There are bigger fish to fry. National automotive policy in limbo. 136 billion naira investment stuck, and there you see the picture telling the story, and right at the bottom there are details that we can chew on this morning. 58 assemblies spent $756 million in 5 years of NAIDP. Of the 58 firms, 20 closed operations in 2024. Only 6 are actively assembling vehicles, but with extremely low capacity. So what are the policies that should be put in place, the framework that should encourage local assembling of automotive equipment in the country? Is the National Assembly reflecting on this? We're busy with other matters that some would consider not necessarily moving the economy forward. But this is an important story to reflect on, especially in the light of the circumstances of what's happening in the economy. The increase in port charges, how much are you buying a vehicle today? I doubt that you can purchase a brand new vehicle. Nigerians are purchasing even Nigerian use at breakneck costs. So a very important story there, and you can find details this morning on the inside pages of the Guardian newspaper.
I have an extreme position. Whatever major thing we're not able to be self-sufficient in, let's stick with what we have. So if we're not able to produce cars, let's stick with horses, donkeys. Because until we are able to, I know it's very extreme, but I'm just trying to say we need to begin to think that way. Once you see something, you're like, can we be self-sufficient in this? Because we're spending, do you know how much people spend, convert to dollars just to import fairly used vehicles that have been maybe accident,
I'm afraid that that's only going to stay in the imagination where it came from.
Don't worry, we're going to bring, we're going to have a proper conversation on this.
They have to lead with that. Even the government is not using local vehicles here. Yeah. And yet, when you want to import a vehicle, the kind of amount is almost the same price you used to buy the vehicle that you used to clear. And then we're declaring a huge amount as revenue and killing the economy at the expense of the people. So, guys, what do we have next?
Well, we're actually still talking about how to power the vehicles and other machines. So we'll take a quick break now. When we return, the crude for oil, Naira-for-crude, rather. What is going to happen to the price of petrol amidst all of this back and forth? That's where we're starting off. And
Welcome back. So let's talk about this issue around Naira-for-crude. So the government, the federal government, I should say, had a policy to sell crude oil to local refineries in Naira. It's part of the, I think, Section 109 of the PIA that allows that kind of transaction. If you want to do dollar, if you want to do Naira, it's allowed within the law. So there was a timeline of about 6 months. We understand it's ending in March. There was a lot of uproar to the effect that this may cause an uptick in prices of petroleum products, and there were that back and forth within the subcommittee in charge of it, as well as the stakeholders. But the best way to find out exactly what the status is at the moment is to speak with the people who are players in that space. We've been joined by the national president of Petron, that's Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry. Dr. Gillis-Harry, thank you so much for coming on the program. Zahari, if you can unmute your device so that we can hear you. We couldn't hear what you said.
Are we good to go?
Yes, fantastic. Yes, we can hear you now. So maybe you help us understand why this is such a big deal, if indeed it's going to end and it will be reviewed. The reason is simple. From my understanding and where I sit, I feel that the simple idea about Naira-for-crude is not necessarily the fact that the prices will change. It's the fact that you are paying for crude in Naira with the dollar equivalent, if that is correct. So it's just the currency of transaction to reduce the FX pressure we feel in terms of these purchases. So if this ends, why should it impact the price of crude oil? Is it because of how it will impact FX, the price of PMS products? Just help us break it down, sir.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and good morning, Nigeria. This policy is a very welcome one, I believe, for Nigeria and Nigerians. Petron has been in the forefront of advocating for the Naira-for-crude. We are very much conversant with the fact that the PIA allows for you to do transactions in different currencies. And you are right when you say the main objective of even our own understanding was that once crude oil is sold in Nigerian Naira, it will release the pressure on our forex, and we can easily, build up again the foreign reserves that is needed for other critical developmental investments. But this policy, in the first instance, was put together just for 6 months pilot. And last a couple of weeks ago, Petron confronted authorities on the issue when we heard it from very surreptitious publications, and we explained that the policy will come to an end the first instance on the 31st of March, and that this is going to take the period in which reviews and searches on how the whole thing has worked and how it's impacted the country should be done. And we went on with that fact that hopefully this policy will be reviewed and it will be reinstated after the first tenure has elapsed. But up till now, to my knowledge, meetings have been held consistently on the issue, and we've not heard any very clear policy that has come out of it.
I know the end game for a lot of people is know what will happen to the price of petrol should this fall through, because it's increasingly looking like it might. Maybe there might be extension for some time, but we don't know for how long, even if that would happen. But we're trying to see what will be the best option for both parties now, and ultimately for Nigerians. So with the crude for Naira deal, Nigeria sells crude to Dangote for Naira, or in Naira, obviously. But of late, we've heard that Dangote is importing crude to refine. So some have said if Dangote is able to get dollars to import, isn't it able to also pay Nigeria in Naira, since Nigeria is looking for that much needed dollars for the external reserve to fund the budget, basically to buffer itself up when it comes to revenue. So what is the best model that will really work for both parties? Some have said rather than selling crude, Nigerian government can say, you know what, we'll give you the crude refined for us, and I'm talking about the NNPCL now. We'll give you crude refined for us, then give us back the petrol. We'll pay you for refining, right? Some have said, well, ultimately, whatever the case is, just make sure that the price of petrol comes down. So if you're able to merge all the interests of all the parties here and see what works for everyone, what will they be for you, Mr. Gidisari?
Well, for me, my basic concern would be the well-being of Nigerians. It's clear that petrol has become a very reliable and strong source of energy security for our operations, for our businesses, for our health, for our daily living. And it will be a difficult thing for me personally to see that Nigerians will, for any reason, suffer the death of unavailability of petroleum products, especially PMS. So you got it right when you suggested a mix of processes that could work. Can Dangote refinery refine for an MPC? Can they refine for Nigerians? It's one idea, but that is a 650,000 barrels per day refinery, and can really take our production cap as of today. It's about 2.01 million or so. So that takes quite a chunk of over almost 30% of our daily production. So, and of course, we have commitments for sales. We have forward sales already made. We are reading the size of debt that is already accrued based on the forward sales. So I think that the best thing for the Nigerians to do and the policymakers would be to look at a mix of all of that, where crude is produced in Nigeria strictly for domestic production. That would be one, and that should not be in the OPEC quota. I don't see why Nigeria cannot take a decision on how to think out of the box and make that work. The other one, like you suggested, is, look, instead of carrying our crude oil to refine for us from any other country, let us do that crude oil swap production for refined product in Nigeria. And of course, don't forget that the Nigeria policy for Naira-for-crude was not only for one refinery, it was both for the NNPC refineries, Ezekiel refinery, Niger Delta, Walter Smith, Edo refinery, and all the refineries that are there. So it wasn't just only for one refinery. So I think a mix of different options can be able to save Nigerians. I personally don't want to hear that there is scarcity again in Nigeria. With all these numbers of refineries working, and of course, the import opportunity should also be explored, so that we have comparison of prices in different areas, and ensure that at all times we have product to keep our stations wet and serve Nigerians more efficiently.
So if that is the goal, I believe that is perhaps the reason that some economic watchers are saying that why can't the policy be sustained? Why have the meetings been unfruitful so far? And as a result, they're attributing the inability to renew this template to what seems to be the price war between Dangote Refinery and the NNPCL. In the last couple of months, we've experienced some form of stability, less dependence on foreign exchange as a result of this policy. So are you getting that sense also as a stakeholder in the industry that the refusal to renew this policy is because it's unfavorable to the NNPCL, and in the last couple of weeks, and in fact maybe 1 or 2 months, Dangote Refinery has been reducing the pump price of petrol?
Well, I will not say that there is any adverse effect on NNPC. NNPC is the producer of the crude oil that is needed, and all that is required is for the upstream arm of the Ministry of Petroleum to look at how to make productions much more ensure that there's security in the Niger Delta and elsewhere where oil is being produced, even in the Bauchi basins and all of those areas. So we can have a very, good pool of crude oil for Nigeria's, use. What I will think is that the policy has not been stopped, and it hasn't. There's no indication that it's going to stop, in my opinion, because we took our complaint to the highest quarters in the industry, and we were very well informed as to the process that is going to take place.
But Mr.
So
Gilisari,
today is still
Mr. Gilisari,
so many days away from the 31st.
Pardon me, Mr. Gilisari, if I may come in there. If you say there is no indication that it will stop, some marketers have begun to, top the pump price of petrol by at least 10 naira. I wonder if you have observed that, but I have observed that. So is it an indication that they're getting a sense that the pump price of petrol will go up as a result of the delay in the renewal of this Naira-for-crude framework?
Well, I don't think that the price of PMS will just jump up just on the speculation of that. The thing is, availability will at all times decide what price that the storage facility owners, the depot marketers will sell to us as retail outlet owners. So if availability has now dwindled to the point where they want to increase prices, that will not be because there is a singular decision of stopping the Naira for crude policy. But rather what I will advise, and this is what we have told our members, first we have told our members not to buy in panic, and we want to be sure that nobody is shortchanging us, because we are the last mile in the industry, and it's a very difficult thing to start explaining to commuters and our patrons. We bought product just 3 hours ago that we have changed price to 10 naira more. It's been a tough walk for us, but we have to still keep selling so that we don't grind the wheel of the growth of the economy down. So I don't think it's that policy issue that's there. It's availability of petroleum products.
All right, Mr. Gilisari. As we wind down, I think there's a bigger problem that I would like you to speak to, and maybe speak to it with facts as well. Dangote refinery has a capacity for 650,000 barrels per day. So if all the refineries in Nigeria are working, Warri, the NNPCL and the other ones, maybe we'll come to about maybe 1-point-something million barrels per day of capacity to refine crude. And that's going to be a lot. So we can actually start exporting petroleum products in that sense. But I think what we are dealing with is feedstock again, and which is why Dangote has to buy some of his feedstock from outside Nigeria. So from what you know, how much of forward sales have we committed our country to? How long are we going to be on this? And is NNPC still doing these forward sales?
Well, I'm not aware of what size of forward sales that have been made with empirical evidence. But from the reports and the data that I've gathered, we're about 21-point-something billion down. So that is a lot of money, and nobody knows how long that will be. It will take to defray that amount. But here is what we have been suggesting from Petron to the government and to NNPC and to everybody. Look, what stops us from working out, a policy whereby specific fields are, producing strictly for domestic use. And we should be able to discuss this outside of the OPEC basket. So this, for me, is the only solution, and we have been talking about it for a long time. And I hope that the policymakers are listening to us, the grassroots, players in this industry, that it will be able to help. Because we have refineries now, and more investments are coming in the refinery capacity area. So why don't we make Nigeria the hub of export for refinery? That will be a much, much more productive and beneficial economic gain for us.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Okay, I think it's a good idea, brilliant one, and I'm sure that your people are listening, and we just have to do what we can. It's just that we sold our future so much that we hope NNPCL is not selling or continue to sell. But they hardly come out to talk, so they leave room for a lot of speculation, unfortunately. Rather than writing pressers, we expect them to come and defend themselves. But thank you, Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry, the national president of Petron. Thank you for always coming through whenever we call on you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much for having us.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to the next conversation. Join us again.
Well, let's get into identity management. The Senate has passed a bill seeking to repeal and reenact the National Identities Management Commission Act, basically have much more refined and standard identity management, and to make national identity registration for all Nigerians mandatory as part of efforts to reform the nation's identity management system. And yes, we're joined by Seun Adelawa, who is a data governance consultant, data security expert, master data management, joins us from London. Good morning, Mr. Adelawa. And as far as a lot of people know, they'll say, well, isn't it compulsory already for us to go through that whole process, get your NIN, register, put your thumbprints, get some passport photograph, and then you get a slip. So for them, to a large extent, it is mandatory because you can't use a mobile phone in terms of register your SIM without all of that. You can't get your passport and a lot of other, even for your banking operations. But the point of this conversation is look at where we are and where we ought to be in terms of global best practices. So when you see this move by the Senate and you see where we're at right now in Nigeria vis-a-vis where other countries are at, what opportunities and challenges do you see, Mr. Adelawa?
Good morning, moderator, and thank you for having me. Yes, this is an interesting topic, knowing that we've come this journey before. We've had a series of programs within Nigeria, previous governments, that has been targeted at doing something of this nature. We have national identity cards sometimes. We have BVN, we have NIN, all this, and hopefully there won't be more. But this is in itself a good thing in that this is a global practice in the developed world where there is a national database. And if you go to Europe, for example, they have a national ID card and they don't even have to travel with their passports anymore. With that card, they can access any country. And in itself, this is a good intent for Nigeria. But Nigeria is a unique case in the world. And so we have a Nigerian way, and that could play. And that is just the fear of some Nigerians and many Nigerians in this instance. The benefits are there, but the fear is also alarming in terms of what could go wrong, or if this will go to intent, actually.
Well, what could go wrong? Past few months, in fact, past few years, we've had cases of data breach, other people getting access, or companies, websites getting access to Nigerian data and selling it for 50, 100 naira, depending on, the platforms, and that has raised serious concerns. So you realize that anybody can just get your address, right, with what it is right now. So in terms of global best practices, yet again, which is where I started from, how should a proper national data management work?
Thank you. Proper national database management is done to the highest security, and that has not been the case if we have people's data already been breached and been sold, and that is all already, a case for people to be afraid of what would happen if they have their real time. Because what this will do is it will give people a real time information about the citizens. In our ideal world, there would be a strong, independent security and cyber infrastructure that guards national identity database, But we've not had that in previous time, and if we can bring that into this act to be implemented, then that will bring some sort of assurance and peace for citizenry, right? So what I know is that to make this happen, we have to have a very, very strong, robust security policies and infrastructure that guards national identity database. Without that, this would be a disaster, obviously.
And it's that security policy that we seek to understand that would ensure the harmonization of the surfeit of data that Nigeria has and would in fact help to solve the problems of kidnapping, banditry, and insurgency. So what would that security policy look like that will work well with the abundance of data that we have?
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, the security policy would be in different phase, like it would cover a few things. Security in terms of protecting the data itself, making resource available vis-a-vis IT systems that protects the data. That is one. Two is that the security policy also we address integration with other existing platforms in the system. Banks, for example, we have BVN banks, we have already. So the security policies we address how real-time integration will work with all this as well. We have telecoms as well. People need to have and all the existing registrations to be able to have their phone numbers working. So the security policies we address how this new initiative will work with existing platforms to be able to make access and networking easy, and also work with the existing security around those existing framework as well and architecture as well to have a robust, operation. Otherwise, it will fail by itself. So the security we address how people's data also should be used in account of this this policy. GDPR is a strong regulation in Europe. In Nigeria, we have NDPR, but NDPR is weak. I'm sorry to say, I'm a practitioner and a registered DPU as well. NDPR is not really enforced. So if we have access to national information of people and NDPR is not as strong as it should be in Nigeria, then there was this fear that data in the wrong hands can go messy. So this policy should address how NDPR will be enforced from states, local governments, private sectors across the nation.
There's a juxtaposition I would like you to do, and that is the issue of data management and broadband penetration, which is quite crucial. I say that for two reasons. First, for security, national security reasons. Second, for election management and for national planning. There's an idea where the country is trying to come up with the census. A budget was submitted, the president rejected the amount. I'm sure they are going to review it. And some of us are advocating that it has to be biometric in nature for us to actually know the number of people that are in the country. When it comes to election, one of the complaints that's given by the political class and some persons is the fact that, the penetration is not as much. So using certain technology in a certain part of the country is not easy. So they resort to whatever means that they resort to. So how much of penetration do we need to be able to galvanize all of this so we can stop complaining about this and move on to the next conversation of proper utilization?
Thank you. Now, when it comes to census, we had last census in 2023, which is just like shy of 2 years ago or so. And talking about census 2 years after...
I think census was about 2006, not 2023. It's about 2006.
The election.
2006.
Yes.
So we are due for another census next year. Pardon my data then. We have another census next year, 2026, right? Between now and 2026, what would change? How would that benefit would we need another census 2026 if we want to do this now? If the government is trying to fight, the budget around census and this, I can see the parallel. However, I think if this is done well, it can replace census because this gives real-time identity, it gives a real-time traceable identity of Nigerians. It helps the government with financial planning. It helps them with real-time biodata of age group, age range, demography, status, health, planning, social programs, real-time accountability of people. And that can feed into politics, it can feed into voting, it can feed into demography and placement of people across the nation, and also resources. Because of that, that can help with banking, it helps with telecom, it helps with tax also. Now, Nigeria is a country that tax is not so great among individuals. It falls more largely on people who are in the civil service, right? Private sector has a loophole, but with national identity being implemented, you can head count for people of working age, where they work, and then you can increase your revenue that way. So there are great, this is what happens in the developed world. Everyone is accounted for, no matter who they are. So that is an advantage for Nigerians if we want to take this.
And one will just wonder, would we then need another census if we're able to get this right and have every Nigerian in database, and the census would just be an academic exercise? But we have to thank you so much for your time. Sheil Adilawa,
thank you.
Data Governance Consultant, UK. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll go on a quick break now. When we return, there's something called experiential marketing. What is it about and how can it improve your business, your person, maybe Nigeria as well? That's in a moment. Stay with us.
Because I'm Yoruba, I'm married to Igbo, I schooled in the north. And I think my parents had done that very well too. And I think of people as Nigerians, not as this or that, So first off, it's all of us being able to create that experience amongst our circle of influence, and hopefully from there it begins to move around.
I like that. You are the Nigerian experience, and then when they meet you, you market them either uncannily or deliberately. I'd like you to speak to experiential marketing within the context of making brands generational. And I'm asking this because I'm a millennial. Off the top of my head, I can recall
Gen Z.
I can recall 2-3 advertisements from the 90s, that I can sing the songs of those brands now. And sometimes I wonder, okay, where's this particular brand, from the 90s that came on when we watched those soap operas? Do we have experiential marketing strategies now that can make brands as generational as from that period of our history?
Should I mention some brands?
No, please.
Exactly. So there is a brand that has something about sharing. And it is a it's gone over generations. One of the reasons why is very simple. They're not selling in your face. They're creating experiences that make you emotionally connected to them. It's a brand that, remember some brand that did something where everybody was looking for their names on that brand, on the bottle. That brand is older than you, is older than me.
Is it a Nigerian brand?
That's not a Nigerian brand.
Okay.
So that's one brand. But I'm saying, I started from there, you understand? So that's one. Then there's another brand now, specifically a Nigerian brand. There's a lace brand and there's an envelope brand. So these are two brands that I know very clearly, speaking now, have gone through various generations. One thing I like about the lace brand is this. She's also a person that makes you feel So it's going back to what we started with, the storytelling thing you talked about, the ability to immerse your consumers into what it is that you're doing or selling. Using the example of the lace brand, all my laces anywhere in the world is bought by my auntie, and my auntie has known these people for years. Somehow I met the lady in another session and we got speaking, and just speaking to her, I wanted to start buying clothes. So imagine when she's attending to you in her office. Now she's even gone, so I see her almost everywhere. So she's built, I don't know if it's a franchise, I don't know if it's she that has developed, but that is a generational brand that has grown. Why? Because the owners of the brand make you feel a part of their brand. They make you feel like we care. She tells you things like, we brought X number, and that she does that for my auntie. We brought X number of whatever for this particular party you want to do. After the party, we will start to sell. So that means that, do you get, do you understand? So what are they doing? They're creating something special for their consumers. They're making you feel like we care about you, and pretty much that's what experiential marketing does. Experiential marketing connects you and makes you feel like you are number one.
The hope is that we're going to build transgenerational wealth with this, because there's a program I used to watch.
Nigerian brands.
Yes, Nigerian brands.
Yeah, with Nigerian brands.
Say 100 something club, a program I watch. You must have been 100 years to be on that program. But anyway, Bukola, you have it.
Yeah, we hope that the SMEs and the MSMEs have learned one or two things from this particular segment. Very instructive. You can play it back on YouTube. Thank you so much, ma'am. We've been talking with Tolulokwe Medebem. She's an experiential marketing expert. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
All right, from here, we go to another interesting talking point. What is the role of the traditional institutions in providing intervention that will help solve some big political feuds that are impacting, albeit negatively, on our democracy? Stay with us for this conversation. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the role of traditional institutions in stabilizing the polity and national unity. We've been joined in the program by the Amayanabo of Opobo Kingdom, Dandison Douglas Jaja V. Your Royal Highness, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
So let's begin with your overview of the level of intervention that is required by the institution to be able to bring stability, because if the players, say in the polity, are being extreme in their game, it is institutions like yours that should bring a bit of sanity and stability in this space. And coincidentally, the governor of Rivers State, who is now suspended, is your subject. He's from Opobo Kingdom. Maybe we'll start from there.
Well, the financial institutions have been very supportive of government right from time the inception of this administration. Let's go back to the colonial era. The white man came here and saw that the institution was very well organized, and they were very close to the grassroots. And they used the institution to further their administration. But unfortunately, these days, our governments don't use the traditional rulers, the inherent powers that the traditional rulers have over their subjects. And therefore, they're not properly utilized. So this is the problem of our modern society. Politicians cannot only govern the people, they need the traditional rulers to work with them and make sure that they deliver the dividends of democracy.
Right, so in terms of now, will I say, tangible interventions and how well they have been adhered to. And I use the word adhered to because it's expected that our traditional rulers are fathers in that sense. So when they give advice, counsel, it's expected that the younger ones will at least listen to it and show good faith. Would you say that has been effective, particularly looking at what is playing out in the polity? Has that been effective? Is it that, well, is it the mode of communication, or what exactly will be the issue if your interventions have not been as effective as they ought to be?
Yeah. The institution doing their government assignment to take care of their subjects, to make sure that the interests of their subjects are protected, even from outside the aggression. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, the inherent powers of the traditional rulers are not being harnessed. The government is not using the traditional rulers effectively. For instance, in the areas of security, the security of any community or any domain, is under the traditional ruler of that domain, and he knows whoever is in his domain has a way of connecting with the people. This inherent ability or God-given work is not being harnessed by the politician. So there is always this lacuna between policies and what is on the ground. So this is a problem. So we wish that the traditional rulers would be that the inherent powers and then the not giving traditional methods of investigating things can be much more used by governments in power. There should be this regular contact between the governments and the traditional rulers, especially in the areas of unity in the communities, in the areas of peace, in the areas of security, and other areas too that are within the purview of traditional rulers.
Your Royal Majesty, some will draw, albeit a strange similarity between what is playing out in Rivers State now to, what happened in history, particularly as it has to do with your kingdom, where the ancient king Jaja of Opobo suffered at the hands of the British colonialists. I wonder what your reflections are when you think about what has played out in River State, and what really has been the role of traditional institutions in providing an intervention to sort of prevent it from getting to the stage where it got to, which is the declaration of a state of emergency. And even while we're here now, is there any role that traditional institutions in River State can play in bringing a definite end to the conflict? So when I say definite end, between the warring political leaders now, even if they're from different ethnic groups?
Before this incident in River State, the traditional institution, that's the River State Council of Traditional Rulers, has started reaching out to the parties concerned with a view to forging peace and for them to talk with each other and to resolve whatever problems they had in the interest of the masses of River State. Unfortunately, before we could carry out this function meaningfully, we had this state of emergency clamped on the state. So everybody was thrown off balance. Even as we speak, the institution is still trying to make sure that they continue the peace move. The government should use the tribunal institution because we are not politicians. We don't understand the ways of politicians, but but our us, they are therefore would listen to us. So I think that we have all it takes to bring about lasting peace in Rivers State if we're given the opportunity to do so.
Your Majesty, so what do you think about the presidency declaring a state of emergency in the state? Do you agree with him, as well as this suspension?
I think I rather not speak on this because I'll be speaking out of interest. Ask me questions that I can answer. The president is the president. He has all the facts, security-wise and all. So whatever he does is for the masses, for the people that voted him in to know whether he's right or he's not right, and also to appeal to him to try and rethink and and then let's have the status quo back.
I know you've, I mean, sat in a room with the president, with other leaders of Niger Delta, had discussions, varying discussions about, largely oil and some other issues regarding the region. And it's been said time and again how vital the region is to the nation's economy. So it's understandable that the leaders there should have a say in whatever decision is being made that would affect the region. In terms of the kind of counsel or the kind of conversations that has been had with the president, do you think there's an alternative for the president to follow to ensure stability and peace in the region, aside the state of emergency that has been declared and the suspension? Because I imagine that the leaders must have had a conversation with the president. You must have noticed the president's mien. I imagine he was open to suggestions from the leader. So what other options are on the table if you ask him to reconsider?
One of the things that we took to Mr. President, firstly was about the peace in the region, and then how to resolve the River State crisis. And then the South-South development bill or something, which fortunately and happily the president has assented to and signed into law. The next thing is that we think that Mr. President, with all his advice, that he would have really allowed us to have time to go and see how we could get peace back to our region, that's why to Rivers State. How be what has happened. We cannot now go crying over spilled milk. But we think that the president can reconsider his position and then listen to the yearnings of the people. The meeting we had yesterday was a meeting of solidarity and also to appreciate the fact that we cannot answer fire for fire if we were looking for peace. And that the best course of action would be for us to get all the parties around the table and discuss how to get peace back to River State. Therefore, we did not go there to discuss anything about violence or anything about how the kind of reprisal or whatever we can do to forcefully get the federal government to get back to what it was before. So it was a solidarity meeting. It was all in the interest of peace and stability of this country. Yes, the region is a region that is imbued with a lot of resources. Does not give us all the rights and benefits that we should have. We need other parts of the country to be part of us, and for us to continue and do whatever it is that will make this country great again.
And earlier, sir, you talked about the need for government to allow the traditional rulers play their role. And the Senate is, in fact, considering a bill that will grant traditional rulers constitutional roles for second reading. But some of the concerns raised is that this constitutional role could conflict with the role of traditional rulers. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, the concern is that traditional rulers are on the payroll of government. They get salaries, allowances, letters of appointment, and in fact are given land by the government. So these two factors, are you concerned that it would impede any meaningful and legitimate role that traditional rulers will play in interventions on many levels in government if these two concerns remain?
Have their God-given roles to play in society. But we do not think that any recognition by the government of our God-given roles would conflict with anything. I think that what we're asking for really is for government to understand, to recognize our role in society and to assist traditional rulers play their role meaningfully. For instance, we're talking about the community policing. Community policing, who would be at the head of it? It will be the traditional rulers. It will be the traditional rulers who will, advise the security agencies on how to go about the community policing, which is very, very germane in our society today. If we want to be, maintain security of our communities, and then for government to really play its role to the people.
All right, Your Majesty. So let's look look forward to what the future will look like. The suspension is in effect. I understand that the governors have gone to PDP governors have gone to court. There's an uneasy calm. Everybody's just watching to see what plays out. The National Assembly has done some amendment to include bringing the warring faction together to find a path to peace and all of that. In your view, what do you suggest should be the compromises that should be effected in this case to bring lasting peace? Because the river states that I know, it looks like every 8 years or so, there's always one crisis. There was a war between Rotimi Amechi and his predecessor, Peter Odile. That same incident happened between Amechi himself and Nyesom Wike, and now Nyesom Wike versus Fubara.
That what is playing out is political. But in this whole problem, peace is the answer. There's no other way that you can look at it. The best thing is to bring all the parties together and let them talk with each other and resolve whatever may have caused this problem, so that the people of Rivers State, the ordinary citizens of Rivers State, don't suffer more than they should. Already, there's a lot of disquiet everywhere. There's, some people don't even understand what state of emergency is all about. And therefore, let me also join in calling on Mr. President to please make this burden less. Return the elected officers back to their offices, and maybe in this state of emergency, let's life go on, and let there be peace in the state. You know, the state of a war, you cannot progress. So that is my appeal. I'm not appealing as the traditional ruler of the present governor, but as a citizen of Nigeria, as Niger Delta. That's what we want. We're not going to have war against each other. We're people of the same stock. The time for war has passed. This is the time for judgment.
All right, Your Majesty, just totally out of time, but I wanted to find out, have you been able to speak with Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, in the midst of all of this?
I was able to speak with him. I served for 8 years in his administration as chairman, Rivers State Council of Traditional Rulers, which had never happened before. So I thought that we had very good rapport. Unfortunately, he gave me an appointment to come and see him on this, so that we could talk things over and see how it could be resolved. When I went to see him, he was not there to see me at all. So that is the effort that we made to see each other. Unfortunately, since then, we've not been able to see.
Your Royal Majesty, Amayinabo of Opobo Kingdom, Dandison Douglas Jaja V. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. We appreciate it. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll move on to the next part of the conversation. Join us again.
Well, let's shift gears now and talk about hyper-realism. As you can see, we're joined on the program by Dr. Zainab Magaji. And the doctor there is not a PhD, she's a medical doctor. She's an ambigram artist, hyper-realism artist, visual artist, and we have her live in our Abuja studio. Good morning, doctor. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you for having me.
I love how you combine medicine with art in that sense, so science with art. So maybe it's not true that you only go one route. You can actually choose science and art in that sense. But speak to us about how, first, you're able to combine this. Which one are you? Are you artist by day, doctor by night, or doctor during the day, artist by night?
Well, for me, art has always been something I think it's been a childhood talent. I grew up to love art, and I can say that I was always found drawing. As well, to be very honest, I think I only had art class, a formal art class in primary school. Afterwards, it was just me freestyling and doing all of that. I thought at a point I was going to be an architect. In fact, it was a dilemma for me to choose between art and to choose between medicine and architecture. But I realized I had a very, very strong passion for medicine, and I went into it hoping to still combine both at the end of the day, which I'm really happy I'm doing that now. So yes, I'm doctor during the day and artist usually at night.
Beautiful. And you also find a way to combine ambigram with hyper-realism. You know, so hyper-realism is like looking at some sort of 4K HD image, right? Then ambigram is finding a way to use calligraphy and all of that. So yet again, you are exploring, I wouldn't call them two different or extreme ends of, art, but basically they're different. But how are you able to still find a way to combine that as well?
Okay, so generally I think I'm a kind of person that likes challenges. I like challenging myself. I don't really like the mundane. It doesn't excite me. It doesn't give me the adrenaline. So I like to explore things. And with ambigrams, I think I came across ambigrams from a book, Angels and Demons from Dan Brown. So since then, I actually found it really fascinating how you could actually read, like, you could have like a calligraphy, and when you turn it upside down, it reads like the same thing or different things. Like, initially I thought I couldn't do it. I kept trying, and I found that eureka moment, and it was really exciting for me. And since then, I have made so many ambigrams. I think I've probably made more than 100. And I keep challenging myself on a daily basis. And with anything you set yourself to do, I believe it's all about practice. The more you practice, the more you get better. So there's really no limit.
Well, let's talk about the commerce or the viability of this ambigram, because you talked about the fact that you like things that give you that adrenaline pump. Money is a good thing that can give anybody that pump. So how is it viable? How viable is it? I think that's my question.
Sorry, can you come again?
I was asking how viable it is, your arts, how viable it is.
Okay, well, it is quite viable. It's, Hello?
Go on, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Oh, dear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Please go ahead. We're listening to you.
Okay. Well, it's something that anybody can do, to be honest, once you set yourself to doing it.
All right. We're hoping that you would elaborate more on the viability of the art pieces that you're producing and, the target audience that it appeals to. And perhaps, we could also get an insight into what the figures are. But let's talk about using your work to empower young people, particularly the girl child in the North that you represent, and some of your works speak to, culture and the need for its preservation. So how are you reflecting on reproducing yourself, as a unique female voice from a part of the country where we do not really have many of them?
Honestly, I've realized that being a woman from northern Nigeria, it's quite rare to find an artist. In fact, you rarely find them, but of course the figures are increasing now. And that's why I hope to really inspire more younger women, more girls from northern Nigeria to also pursue their dreams. You shouldn't allow anything to stand by their way. Currently, I have a number of mentees that I actually mentor. In fact, there's a medical student who also is currently studying at Barrow University, kind of where I graduated from, who is also into hyper-realism. I love that she's also trying to combine both, and she's actually doing well in both. She's doing well academically as well as I can see the growth in her art practice.
Fantastic. So you're infecting others, basically, with this with this good thing called art. I know you also call Dr. Ambigram. Almost sounds like a superhero name, right? But this is Women's History Month, and there's been a lot of talk around empowering women, ensuring there's better inclusion, and all of that. What message, particularly from your own subsector, and I'm not talking medicine, I'm talking art. Maybe you can talk medicine too, but what message do you have for women who are maybe still a bit skeptical, also from your region, a bit skeptical about getting into art, or for parents who are a bit skeptical about allowing their children, girl children now, get into art? What will be your message, at least to drive the point home for this month?
Okay, first I would like to say that art is beyond what you just see. Art can inspire, art can educate, it can drive social change and make a lot of difference in the world. Gone are the days when people just think he's just an artist or she's just an artist. It's beyond that. You're making so much change. Your voice can be the voice of the voiceless. And honestly, I would say that coming from a home where I was given that room to actually express myself and to pursue art, because not every parent will actually be okay with it, especially when you're studying medicine or in fact, they would think you'd be diverted from your primary goal, which is because most parents, I can see a lot of Nigerian parents have that mindset that if you're not just a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, then you're like a failure. So I'm actually happy that I got parents that are very supportive. And when I got married too, I was lucky to get married to a very supportive husband as well. So yes, like every woman out there, every girl child out there that is willing to be an artist should actually not allow anything to come in the way. Have the focus, know your target, and work towards it.
Dr. Zainab Magaji, Dr. Ambigram, I have to thank you so much for being a part of the show and for inspiring us with your story. Wish you the best, will I say in the theater or while you're seeing your patients, depending on where you work, but all the best.
Thank you for having me.
We're not done just yet. When we return, there's something interesting for you. You don't want to miss this, so stay with us.
Welcome back. It's a conversation seldom had, but it's important, and that's why we're zeroing in on it this morning on the program, navigating toxic workplaces. So what exactly can you do when you get up in the morning and you're really not excited about going to work because of the obvious? So you have one or two things to gain from this, and joining us on this particular segment is Folake Okunubi. She's a human resource consultant, talent management expert, and life coach. Good morning, ma'am, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You know, we joke around in the workplace that the HR people must be your friend, and you're extra friendly to them.
They must be.
For obvious reasons. But that's just by the wayside.
Okay.
Let's look at a difficult work environment and where the worker is not encouraged to go to work because of the obvious, particularly if they're giving in their best and they're not getting the required encouragement in terms of promotion. And promotion is even far in terms of acknowledgement that you're doing your best at this material time. What are the options open to this particular worker to seeking redress, or maybe not redress, to getting the right acknowledgement?
Okay, I think the first thing for the point of view of the employees, understand why. What's happening? You may be doing your best, but is your best what the company requires? Are you delivering results? Why is the environment hostile? What's happening? So the first thing is self-awareness and trying to understand why. Are your results in line with what the company wants? Are you doing what the company wants? Why is your boss not liking you? Does your boss not like everybody? Is it just you they don't like? The first question is why. When you know why, then you can give the right solution to the problem at hand. But if you don't know why, you're just shooting in the dark. You've got employees who say, my boss doesn't like me, but the employee isn't delivering results. The employee is, not doing what needs to be done, giving excuses and not results. So first of all, we need to understand why. Then when you know why, then you can address it. So assume why is because you're not delivering results or your skills set doesn't match what the company wants, then you need to adjust. So self-awareness is the first thing. Analysis and deep self-awareness, that's the first.
But before you get to HR, there's a line manager and there's probably a superior boss in that hierarchy. And perhaps there's a brick wall, there's a barrier, there's a fence that you're unable to climb over to even get that feedback in the first place. So what options are open to this particular worker, especially if you skip protocol, and go higher, you just may be accused of insubordination.
Yeah, that's why you're in a work environment and you're not a solopreneur or a solo worker. There are people around you who you can take feedback from. There's what's your work plan. Your work plan will tell you what you need to do and what results you need. You've got peers. You see how the same boss interacts with peers. You need to know what your company is aiming for. And when you sync yourself or you align with yourself with what your company is trying to deliver, nothing can be done about you. So you've got to deliver results so that it's unambiguous. You need mentors around you, peers, mentors, seniors, other people. Sometimes you may need internal mediators. Okay, my boss, it's not working with my boss. There's someone else who is your boss's friend, or you've got a senior who is between you and your boss. There are typically other people around you that you can use to get data and information to understand what's going on, and then you can figure it out from there. But one of the pieces of advice I give people most is you need to be skilled at your work. You need to be so skilled that they can't do anything about you. You need to deliver results. Every boss, you probably have domestics or people who work with you. If you've got someone who takes initiative, is proactive, delivers results, you're going to like the person. I may not like your face, but I like the results you deliver. And as long as you make my work easier, you become indispensable to me.
So I'm thinking about, let's take it national. HR should not just be in company. So we hired President Bola Tinubu. It's going to be 2 years since we hired him. He's our employee. He's your employee, he's my employee. That's the way it works. So we hired him. And 2 years down the line, based on his policy, he's saying, oh, it's going to be tough for you for a moment, but trust me, it's going to get better in the future. So the employers are divided on these issues. Other employees that we've hired have made these promises and it didn't work out. Why should it be different? So how should these employers respond to this employee who constantly tells us? And I'm serious, it's not a joke. Because that's what elections are all about. It's going to be midterm in May. And I'm sorry if I'm putting you in a political space.
So you just segued me into politics. So I'm an employer. I've got an employee who isn't delivering on results. What is the scorecard? What is the contract?
I'm not saying he's not delivering on results. I'm saying he's put us in a very difficult situation. Saying we should endure this pain, that there's glory in the future. and we're still looking for it.
So I'm going to leave your hypothetical situation, and I'm going to assume I have an organization. I have an employee who has told me, okay, I want to deliver $10 million, for example, 10 million naira. And he says, to deliver the 10 million, we need to do some cost cutting, or we need to do something that is going to give us short-term pain, but long-term gains. Then I want to see your work plan. I want to see the building stones, the stepping stones to that, building blocks to that. And then at each milestone, I want to see that you're delivering the results. And then I also need to decide, where do I need to, draw the line to decide, can I go on? Does this employee have potential? What is showing, what is telling me, and the results he's delivering at each milestone, are they in sync or not? If they're not in sync, as an employer, then I need to decide what I need to do, or what I want to do.
I think what I wanted to get out of it is to remind Nigerians that he's our employer. It's our employee.
And you're the employers.
You're the employers.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know if you've seen some videos recently about Gen Zs.
Okay.
You know where I'm going to now. Let me just give you a good background. So Gen Zs did a video and said, we're not like millennials. You see, you millennials took everything, took your change, just acted like it was fine. But we, this Gen Zs, no, we're going to give you a good run for your money, talking about employers, right? And it looks like Gen Zs are challenging the status quo in workplaces. All of a sudden, mental health is such a big deal. All of a sudden, bosses are careful before they say, you're foolish. Something they could say to Gen Z, oh, that's very stupid. How do you, I mean, that's toxic, that's extreme. But it looked like millennials took it. But Gen Zs are saying no. They would walk up to the boss and say, you can't call me that. In fact, I resigned today because my mental health
is at stake and it's being threatened.
Or they say, I need to take a week off just to detox and ensure that I deliver. And it looks like they get it. So how are you handling first Gen Zs?
Okay.
To get a good balance. Get them to be productive, at the same time protect them.
Okay.
Get them respected, at the same time they also should respect the system. So is this a tough period for you as a talent manager?
Okay, I think first thing is every generation says the next generation is problematic. So the baby boomers said that about the next generation, and then said that about the millennials. So every generation says the next generation is spoiled, rotten, this and the other. So let's first establish that. The Gen Zs are not unique, or the discussion about the next generation is not unique. The characteristics or traits may be different, but each generation says the next generation. I'm sure if you listen to your father, I said, you these children of nowadays, in our own days, we walk 10 miles to school and all that.
Call you today.
So every generation, so let's first not give a dog a bad name. It's not about Gen Z. Every generation says the next one. But then we need to, what does this generation want? They want to change the status quo. Okay, we hear you. So first thing is, we hear you. What do you want? We hear this is what you want. Then next, okay, if you want this, responsibilities and privileges go hand in hand. Here's what you need to deliver. A lot of what they're saying is, don't police us on the how, measure us on the what, on the results. Okay, let's have a contract. What are the results you need to deliver? Here it is in black and white. And then deliver it. Okay, we want to walk from the moon today. Fine. A lot of walking from the moon gets us results. So the employers as well also need to be flexible. I mean, in the past, manual gears was what we use. Now we're using automatic. And goodness knows what cars will be.
Self-driving now.
There you go. They're self-driving now. So everybody needs to come to the party to give and take. The privileges the Gen Zs want, fine, but here are the responsibilities that come with it. They're more agile, they learn first, they deliver results, they have their strengths. Let's not overlook their strengths because we are focusing or we're hyperventilating on their weaknesses.
So is 9 to 5 sleeping, pardon me, Bukola, is a 5-day work week still, is it still feasible? Because it looks like we're just doing it because that's what we've always done. But are we empirical about it? Is it delivering? Should we still do 9 to 5? Must we still work 5 days a week? Can't we find ways around it?
I think each organization will find what works for them, and it is already happening. If you look at when we moved from desktop to laptops, when we had desktops, when you went home, you closed your desktop, you shut down, that was it. Then we moved to laptops, and we took our work everywhere we went with us. So in the real sense of it, are we working 9 to 5? No. Hardly anyone goes home these days and that's the end of it. We are continuing to work. So we're learning as we go. The world is in a flux. We're learning and moving. So here we go.
Well, I wish you could be Gen Z in privileges and millennial
I'm Gen
in
Z.
responsibility.
I don't know what you are, but I'm Gen
because
Z.
I like this Gen Z conversation.
I'm not Gen Z.
Very quickly, before we wrap up, I know you talked about feedback, going the extra mile to know what exactly the problem is. But sometimes I want you to acknowledge that employers can be avoidant in responsibility. And, you know, they're refusing to acknowledge that, okay, there's a real possibility that this employee is delivering on what they promised to deliver. There's no mismatch between capability and result. So how do you, I'd like you to address the avoidant approach
let me just help
employers.
Bukola. How do you deal with a wicked employer? I think that's what you're saying, using English to speak. Perhaps.
So use the time to develop resilience. What if that wicked employer was paying you $1 million, or he's preparing you for the employer who would pay you $1 million?
He's a nice employer.
So, down the line. So develop resilience, develop the ability to deliver results, develop your skills, and remember, at the end of the day, you are not a tree. You can move, and when you're moving, all those things you've developed move with you and then help you on your career trajectory. You are able to deliver fantastic results. And then your employer realizes this style of mine isn't going to work or isn't working long term. So two sides of the coin. Deal with what has to do with you, and then...
I appreciate what you're doing.
That's a gospel way of looking at it.
But it looks like Bukola is quite particular. You've empowered the employee, which is great. With resilience, have that mindset, know that this is about you. But I think she wants you to talk to the employers this morning.
Yes.
Look them in the face and tell them.
Employers, I'm looking you in the face. You also need to be aware that you can't deliver results without your employees. Your employees are critical to delivering results. If you have an environment that your employee cannot deliver your best, at the end of the day, it's impacting your productivity. You can't deliver your results.
Great employer.
Absolutely.
Let's be very clear.
Glad to hear that. So
we're acting on behalf of the others.
Yeah, it's two sides of an equation. If an employer doesn't provide the right work environment, the employee cannot deliver or will deliver suboptimally. So it's also in the employer's interest to have a workplace that your employee can deliver. And you need to probably look yourself in the mirror as the employer and determine, take feedback, 360 feedback. We've got employee surveys, and not be defensive about the feedback that is coming through. And, you know, look for consultants, look for experts, look for people like me to help you develop your skills in managing difficult conversations. Because sometimes there are some difficult conversations.
So it's a two-way street, really, between employer and employee. We want to thank you so much for your time and profound insights on this segment. We've been talking with Folake Okunubi. She's a human resource consultant, talent management expert, and life coach. Thank you for coming through.
You're welcome.
Wow, it's been a bumpy ride so far.
Not a bumper package.
But there's more to come with a bumper package tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow with the home stretch. I am Bukola Koga.
And don't forget, don't give up on Nigeria. I have a feeling that a lot of people are giving up on our country. You can't. We cannot afford it. Let's keep fighting until we get it right. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
And I just want to take this time out to appreciate Gen Zs. We're grateful for your addition to the mix. And those managing Gen Zs, I wish you all the best.
I wish you the best.
I'm Kayode Okikiolu. Sunrise Daily is next, so stay with us right here.